Hey guys, Adam here. Today we shift from offensive security, which we covered in the previous video, to its counterpart, defensive security. While offensive security focuses on finding and exploiting weaknesses, defensive security is about preventing attacks, detecting intrusions, and responding effectively when incidents occur. We will explore the core responsibilities of blue teams, learn about SOC operations, threat intelligence, digital forensics, incident response, and malware analysis, and then apply these concepts in a practical security information and event management based investigation exercise, which we will have in this roomy room. Hoof, that was a long sentence I just made. So let us start with task 1. Introduction to defensive security. Previously, the emphasis was on finding weaknesses and exploiting them to improve security. That approach helps organizations understand how attackers think. Now we're looking at the other half of the equation, how to protect systems against those attacks in the first place. So all this thingy there summarized is basically the following. Defensive security has two primary goals. The first is prevention, stopping intrusions before they happen. The second is detection and response, identifying attacks quickly and reacting properly when prevention fails. No matter how strong your defenses are, you should assume that incidents can still occur. That's why detection and response are just as important as prevention. By the way, I would also note that 100% security simply doesn't exist. Not anywhere, not for anyone. So the team commonly associated with defensive security is the blue team. While red teams simulate attacks, blue teams focus on protecting systems, monitoring activity, and responding to threats. Now, let's break down some of the core responsibilities that fall under defensive security. One important area is user awareness. Many attacks succeed because of human mistakes, such as clicking malicious links or reusing weak passwords. Training users reduces the likelihood of those mistakes. You probably heard about phishing attacks, right? Another key responsibility is asset management. You can't protect what you don't know exists. Organizations must maintain accurate records of devices, systems, and services so they can secure them properly. Updating and patching systems is also critical. When vulnerabilities are discovered, vendors release fixes. Applying those updates prevents attackers from exploiting known weaknesses. Preventative security devices play a major role as well. Let's say, for example, firewalls control what traffic is allowed into and out of a network. Intrusion prevention systems go further by actively blocking traffic that matches known attack patterns. So, for example, imagine someone from an unknown foreign IP address tries to access your company's internal database. The firewall checks the rule set and says, this traffic is not allowed. So it blocks the connection immediately. If the traffic also matches a known attack pattern, like a web application exploit attempt, the intrusion prevention system detects it and automatically blocks it in real time. So basically, firewall equals controls access. IPS equals blocks known attack behavior. Oh, and another cool thingy thing about TryHackMe is that if you hover your mouse over the dotted words or acronyms and click it, you see this little window pop up with the definition of the word. Logging and monitoring are equally important. Systems and networks generate logs that record activity. By reviewing those logs, defenders can detect suspicious behavior, such as an unfamiliar device appearing on the network, and investigate it before it causes damage. Defensive security goes beyond these tasks. It also includes several specialized areas that we'll explore in this lesson series, like security operations centers, often called SOCs, threat intelligence, digital forensics and incident response, and for the last one, malware analysis. Each of these areas contributes to detecting, analyzing, and responding to threats in different ways. So let's see the question. Which team focuses on defensive security? Well, that should be the blue team. Let's check out the second task. In this task, we dive deeper into the major areas that make up defensive security. Specifically, we'll look at two broad domains: the Security Operations Center, often referred to as a SOC, and Digital Forensics and Incident Response, commonly abbreviated as DFIR. Within those areas, we'll also touch on threat intelligence and malware analysis. SOC is a dedicated team of security professionals responsible for continuously monitoring an organization's network and systems. Their primary objective is to detect malicious activity as early as possible and take action before serious damage occurs. So, for example, imagine it's 2:30 a.m. and a company employee account suddenly logs in from two different countries within 10 minutes. Sussy thing, right? The SOC analysts see this unusual behavior on their dashboard, or rather on his Lenovo ThinkPad. I mean, if he is not asleep, which shouldn't happen since a serious SOC should be 24 hours a day. They quickly or snortly investigate, temporarily disable the account, and contact the user to verify the activity. So at the end, if it turns out to be unauthorized access, they reset the credentials and check whether any sensitive data was accessed. This is exactly why a SOC exists, or should exist, to react immediately when something doesn't look right, even in the middle of the night. Yeah, there are several key areas that a SOC pays attention to. First thing, vulnerabilities. When a weakness is discovered in software or a system, it needs to be addressed. That often means applying updates or patches. In some cases, a fix might not be immediately available, so compensating controls must be implemented to reduce the risk of exploitation. While remediation may involve other teams, identifying and tracking these weaknesses is still critical from a defensive standpoint. For example, imagine your company website is running an old plugin with a known vulnerability. The vendor hasn't released a fix yet. So instead of just hoping for the best, the team temporarily disables the vulnerable feature and restricts access to that part of the server. It's basically like knowing your front door lock is weak. So until the locksmith arrives, you add a heavy chair behind the door and maybe a camera. Not perfect, but much better than pretending nothing's wrong. Second, policy violations. Organizations define security policies to protect their assets. If a user uploads sensitive data to an unauthorized service or bypasses established controls, that behavior may violate policy. A SOC monitors for such events and flags them for review. Imagine the situation where a company clearly says, do not upload internal documents to personal cloud storage, but someone still sends a confidential report to their private email because it's faster. The SOC detects the unusual file transfer and flags it. It's like putting a do not enter sign on a door, and someone walks in anyway because it was more convenient. It is usually HR people. You know it, I know it, we both know it. Third one, we are doing progress. So the third one is unauthorized activity. Imagine a situation where an attacker gains access to a legitimate user's credentials. From the system's perspective, the login might initially look normal. However, unusual patterns, such as access from unfamiliar locations or strange times, can indicate compromise. Detecting these anomalies is part of the SOC's responsibility. And the legendary number fourth, network intrusions. Even well-protected environments can be breached. An attacker might exploit a public-facing service or trick a user into executing malicious code. The SOC's job is to identify these intrusions quickly and limit their impact. It's like spotting smoke in one room and closing the door before the whole house fills up with it. If it is caused by fire, then not sure how much the closed door would help. But this was the best example I could come up with, so deal with it. Let's go ahead. Closely connected to SOC operations is threat intelligence. In this context, intelligence means collecting and analyzing information about potential or active adversaries. A threat is any action that can negatively affect systems or data. Threat intelligence aims to understand who the attackers are, what motivates them, and how they operate. When I was a kid, my motivation was collecting frogs in the backyard. My brother's motivation was to beat the living you-know-what out of me. That was my threat. Attackers also have motivations, just slightly different ones than my brother's, I think. Money, data, access, disruption. This process typically follows a life cycle. It starts with data collection. Information can come from internal sources such as network logs or external sources such as public forums and research feeds. Next is data processing, or raw data is organized and structured so it can be analyzed effectively. Then comes analysis. This stage focuses on identifying patterns, understanding tactics, and assessing potential risks. The result is actionable insight, recommendations that help strengthen defenses. So, by studying adversaries' tactics, techniques, and procedures, organizations can anticipate likely attack paths and prepare countermeasures in advance. Well, this leads to what's often described as a threat-informed defense. Let's just say if a threat intelligence analyst learned that a certain group usually gains access through stolen passwords and then moves laterally inside the network, the organization can enforce multi-factor authentication and stricter access controls in advance. Now, just a quick clarification about these terms. Lateral movement basically means that once someone gets into one computer, they try to move sideways to other systems inside the same network. Multi-factor authentication means logging in with more than just a password. For example, a password plus a code from your phone. We'll go much deeper into both of these in another video. For now, this level of understanding is more than enough. So for now, let's shift to digital forensics and incident response. Digital forensics applies investigative techniques to digital systems. When an incident occurs, forensic methods help determine what happened, how it happened, and who may be responsible. From a defensive perspective, digital forensics may involve analyzing several types of evidence. The file system can reveal installed programs, created or deleted files, and remnants of past activity. System memory can contain traces of malicious programs that never touched the disk. System logs record actions taken by users and processes. Network logs capture traffic flowing through the network and can reveal suspicious communications. Imagine sensitive customer data suddenly appears online. Digital forensic analysts examine system logs to see who accessed the files, check the file system for recently copied data, and analyze network logs to identify where the data was sent. By piecing together this evidence, they can reconstruct exactly how the incident happened and which account was involved. All of these data sources help reconstruct events after an incident. So let's see. Incident response focuses on how an organization reacts when something goes wrong. An incident might be a confirmed attack, a data breach, a system outage caused by malicious activity, or even a serious misconfiguration. A structured response process typically includes 4 major phases. Preparation involves building and training a team, as well as putting preventive measures in place. Detection and analysis involve identifying the incident and assessing its severity. Containment, eradication, and recovery focus on stopping the spread, removing the threat, and restoring systems. Post-incident activity includes documenting what happened and applying lessons learned to improve future defenses. Finally, let's briefly cover malware analysis. Malware refers to malicious software designed to disrupt systems, steal data, or gain unauthorized control. Common categories include viruses, trojans, and ransomware, but we will talk about those later more in depth. Malware analysis seeks to understand how these programs function. Static analysis examines the code without executing it. This approach looks at structure and embedded instructions. Dynamic analysis involves running the malware in a controlled environment to observe its behavior in real time in controlled environment. Both approaches help defenders understand threats and develop countermeasures. So at this point, you can pause the video and answer the questions by yourself. Good luck. Let's start with the first question. What would you call a team of cybersecurity professionals that monitors a network and its systems for malicious events? That should be Security Operations Center. Second question, what does DFIR stand for? It is, of course, Digital Forensics and Incident Response. And for the last question, which kind of malware requires the user to pay money to regain access to their files? It is ransomware. So let's check out what we have here in task number 3. So you are working as a SOC analyst for a bank. Your responsibility is to monitor systems and investigate alerts that might indicate malicious activity. To do this, your team relies on a security information and event management tool. A security information and event management system collects security-related data from multiple sources and displays it in a centralized dashboard. These sources can include servers, network devices, authentication systems, and applications. The goal is to aggregate events and highlight anything suspicious. When the security information and event management system detects behavior that matches predefined rules or unusual patterns, it generates an alert. However, not every alert represents an actual attack. For example, like multiple failed login attempts might look suspicious, but in some cases, it could simply be a user who forgot their password. Similarly, connections from unfamiliar IP addresses might indicate a new legitimate device, or they might signal an unauthorized access attempt. Sometimes it's an actual security issue. Sometimes it's just Kevin from accounting who forgot his password 3 times again. This is where the analyst's judgment becomes critical. The system raises the alert, but the analyst must investigate, interpret the context, and determine whether the activity is benign or malicious. To simulate this process, you are provided with a simplified interactive security information and event management environment. When you open the simulation, you will see a static site representing a monitoring dashboard. Your task is to follow the instructions inside the simulation, review the events presented, and analyze them step by step. So let's see, what do we have here? Inspect the alerts in your security information and event management dashboard. Find the malicious IP address from the alerts, make a note of it, and then click on the alert to proceed. If we take a closer look at these, what do you find, Sussy? Well, it is obviously the unauthorized connection attempt detected from this IP address. It seems like it is already showing us with the color red. However, you are doing this walkthrough with me, so you would not be in need of this because you are already ahead of everyone. If we click on this, it will ask to insert the IP address. So we just go back from there. Copy it. Also take note that it is on port 22, since we might also need it in the next steps. So after we copied it, we can see that the system flagged it as malicious. Let us go to the next part now. It seems like we have to choose where to escalate this event. Well, from all these options, we should go with the SOC team lead for sure. Or you can also troll your sales executive and give him a mini heart attack, LOL. Okay, seems like we got the permission to block the malicious IP address. We still have the IP in our copy paste, so let's just paste it there too. And we got the flag. Let's copy it to our answer box. This exercise mirrors real-world defensive security work at a really simplified level. In practice, analysts must constantly triage alerts, separate false positives from real threats, and respond accordingly. And with this, we maxed out our second room defensive security intro. Thank you very much for joining today. Hope I see you in the next one.